Okay, as I explained last week, right, today we are going to learn how to create the custom families. Okay, right, when we study the Revit, right, as I said, all object in Revit call as a family. For example, column. If you want to create a column, you have to select the column type, right? This one, if we click this drop down, you can see various column type. Okay, this type is okay, concrete rectangular column, right? This is called as a one family. If you want to understand more, you just click edit type. You see family. This is a family name. Then type, and under that type, there are several options, right? So various sizes. So this is a family, right? So is in other words, it's called as object. It's one object. We understand object is the easiest name to understand. So it is a one object. So under the object, there's a various type, right? So for example, beam, right? So beam is a object. Then beam available is a various sizes, right? For in the steel, let's say steel beam, universal beam, right? So universal beam is a one object. Then is a various type of universal beam is available in the market, right? So this one called as a family in Revit. Revit terminology is a family, right? Then type is as a various members or member sizes, right? Today we are going to learn how to create this custom family. Okay, rectangular beam easy, right? Easy one. Right. Let's say we want to create a circular column, or we want to create a L-shaped column, U-shaped column, different type of the column for our project. Then we don't have a standard family. Then we have to create our own family, right? So today we are going to learn how to do this one. Okay. Similarly, beam, right? Beam also similar. So you can see it's a family, then type, right? So we are going to learn how to create the custom beams and columns. Okay. In order to create this one, what you can do, you can go to File menu, go to New. So far we create project, right? Today we are going to create family. So create family, right? So it's asking what type of the family you supposed to create, right? So our family is a column, right? It's a structural column. So we are using metric standard. There's an imperial standard also. That's why in front there's a name called metric, right? Our standard is metric, so we select the metric. Okay, metric structural column. Open. Right? So this is a family, right? So I don't want to create here. I want to create separately. So what I am going to do is I am going to open in a separate menu. Okay, when you open, you can see so far we do the modeling, right? So we create the new model, we open the model, right? Today we are going to create a family. So I am going to open new family, right? Now it's asking which type of family you want to create. So I want to create structural column. I select structural column. So now you can understand this is a different interface, right? So it's different. You see, we don't have the Saxo architect. We have the different menus, right? Similarly, here you can see floor plans, 3D view and elevation, right? So it's different from our normal Revit. So normal Revit, you can see this is a normal Revit interface, but this family interface is different. So first let's understand what is this interface. Okay, you see this is a plan, right? So in the plan view, how is view? So you had to define the plan view, how is view. Then you have the elevation, four elevation, back elevation, front elevation, left elevation, right elevations, right? So you, for example, column, right? So column, what we can do is we can create a column, let's say the rectangular shape, right? We create a rectangular shape here, then we can extrude it in the elevation, right? So we can do such a way. So I open one elevation, let's say front elevation. So now use front elevation, we have lower level and upper level. Right, so this is okay. This is in the 4 meter, right? This is a random one. You can change it. Actually, you can change it. Okay, okay. First, let us create a, rectangular column or square column. Okay, I change this one later on, right? Okay, so first let's create the rectangular or square column, right? So in order to create, you have to go to create, right? Then which method you want to create it, right? So okay, you see this extrusion. You all everybody know what is the extrusion, right? What is the meaning of blend? What is the meaning of revolve, right? Swap, everything you know, right? So void means if you want to create any void, if you want to create any opening, then you got to create a void. Inside a void also you have a similar option, extrusion, blend, revolve, right? So in the column, how we can create, we can extrude it. And if we know the cross section, then we can extrude it through the elevation or section, right? So I'm going to form the column using extrusion method, right? Click the extrusion. Now this one be familiar, right? How to create this one, right? So I am going to use a pick option, right? We have the various line, right? So we pick the line first, right? So now I picked ready. So I want the square form, right? So what I can do, I can trim it. So I use this trim option to trim it. Okay, now we have the column already. So I click OK. So now I already formed the column, right? Let's go and see in the front elevations. You see this is a column starting from lower level, but it's not reach at the upper level. So you can drag here or you can align it, right? So you align to top. So now you have finished your column, right? Okay. So finish your column. Okay. Now you had to understand what are these lines. Actually, these lines are reference plane, right? So when you go to create, right, you can see you can create a reference plane, right? So all these lines, right, this line, this line, this line, these lines are reference plane, right? It's referring the plane, right? So let's say this one, right? It's a left, right? We have the left elevation here. So this is a left, this is a right, right? This is a back, this is a front, right? These all are the reference plane, right? Okay. Okay, so now we already create the square shape, right? So we are going to create the parameters because we had to change different type, right? So we had to create the parameters, right? So okay, let's see how to make the parameters. Okay, in order to create the parameter, you must need the reference line, right? So you can create the parameter between two reference plane, right? So I'm going to make, they already have this one, so I am going to make it this one, right? You see they already have width, right? This they already have depth, right? So actually I can change this one. Let's say I change this one is a 600, let's say. So it's sort of, you can now, you can understand. Let's say I increase it 1000. So now you see this column move with these two plane because it's tagged to this plane, right? That's why it's moving, right? So you have to make sure that because this is a variable, right? It's a parameters, right? So you have to make sure that your element is moving together the reference plane. Otherwise, your element doesn't work properly, right? You have to make sure this one. Okay. So this one, so I make it 500, right? 500 square, right? Okay. So now I already create one column. So let's see. Okay, this is called as a one family. So okay, let's say this one I can serve as a family. Serve, serve as family. So okay, I serve in the desktop. I create, okay, here inside here. Already I have a family folder, so I call different name. Family, concrete family, concrete family. Okay. Inside here I call concrete column, right? Okay. Okay. Okay, so we have one type of the column, but we want many, right? So let's see how to create many. So under this property, I go to family type. Have you remember here? So here is a family, right? We have a family. Then there's a type, right? This is a family name. We already create a concrete column. So now we are going to create the various type. Okay. So this first type, right? We had to name it, right? So I call as 500 square column. this my own naming. So I name it this way. You can name it 500 by 500 also. No problem. You see, this one is under others. I don't want under others, right? So what I am going to do is I delete this one. I delete this one. I delete this one. Okay. So what I want to do is this one I want to pack under dimension. So select this one, go to under label, create the parameters, create parameters. Here name it is width, right? So the crew parameters are right. I want to under dimensions. I don't want to under others. Okay. So actually you can change where you can choose variable different parameters, but this is a dimension. So I park under dimensions. Okay. This one also I park under dimension. So now let's go and see this one you see is under dimension. Why I want to park under dimension? You see our example, right? So here this is under dimension. So I want to create the almost same. But you see here if you want you can change as a B and H. But I call different name width and depth, right? If you want you can change it here, right? This name you can change it. Basically, if you want to change, you just change here, right? So you can change it here. Okay, this name you can change it. Okay, okay. This one, sorry, this one dimension. We put dimensions, right? So I can change this one. Oh, I cannot change here. Okay, this one I change the depth. System parameter. Yeah, this one I call depth. Okay, we have depth. Okay, now if you go to see, you have certain dimensions. This one I don't need, so I delete this one. So I had depth and width. Okay, so now you can copy this one, right? So you create a new one. Let's say you had to create 600 square, 600 square, right? So now you can change here 600 by 600, right? Similarly, you can create another one, say 700 square. So this one change to 700, right? Similarly, you can create a square rectangular. So let's say 200 by 600. So this one, where depth 600 with 200, right? You see now it's automatically changed. So I serve with this one. Now let's see how to import this family to our projects. So for our project, this one very simple. Click column, hold to edit type, load family, right? So now you have to choose the file. Where is your file, family file? So go to family file is a concrete family. We serve under concrete column, open. Right? You see, now family name is concrete column. Family type is you can see these all are what we created earlier, right? So let's say I select 600 square. So I wrote 600 square. So depth, okay. Okay, so this is our column. Okay, so if you want to see, you can see, okay, we can create some more columns, right? So I select 700 column, maybe 200 by 600, maybe 500 square. Okay, so let's see in 3D. Okay, it's right? This is what we used last time, right? Okay, So this is a way we can create a family. This is a simple one. I explaining first simple one, then you can understand what we are doing. Later on, we can go to the complex one. Okay. So I deleted this one, right? Okay. Okay. So now you understand, right? So this one I save it. Okay. This one now we don't need, right? So okay. Next, let's see how to create the circular column, right? It's new family. Go to new family. Select the concrete column, circular column, right? This one I don't need. I close it. This one, right? Okay. So now I have new one, right? So now we have to be careful. Okay, how to create a column, concrete circular column, right? There's a two way. One way is a extrusion. We draw the plan, then we extrude it, or we can revolve it, right? If you draw in elevation, then we can revolve it around the center axis. We can revolve it, right? Both way we can create the circular column, right? So problem is if we create on the plan and extrude it, then you don't got a reference plan, right? You see, this we had to refer these plans. Otherwise, we cannot change our dimensions, right? These dimensions are referring from one plane to another plane, right? So let's say if I create a circle, right? There's no any reference plane. Only I have the center point. The axis only I have. This is axis, center axis, right? I don't have any other plane, right? So easiest way to do is you had to go any elevation and create it. Okay, so it's elevations, right? Which elevation you had to go, right? Okay, so reference plane. Okay, so let's go to the front elevation, for example, right? Okay, so now let's create a column. So I go with the revolve option, revolve, right? This one set the plane, work plane. Okay, I set the work plane as a center plane, right? Okay, so now I am going to revolve it, right? So that means I want to create a column here, then revolve around this center axis, right? I use the same technique, pick axis. So I pick the axis, right? Then use a rim option to rim it. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to select the axis, right? So this one also I pick the axis, right? This axis, then I complete it. So now you see I have created a column because I revolve around this one, right? So let's go and see in the plane, right? So this is a column, right? So now let's see, we create this one is a on the front, right? So these two lines are our lines here, right? If we have, you see, this is a left, right? This is a left, this is a right, right? So left and right is between left and right, right? So we don't need these dimensions anymore, right? So we want these dimensions only, right? So this one, okay, I delete first, right? Then I add again, right? So this one I want to make as a parameters. So I create a new parameter. I call diameter. Diameter. Okay. So if you want to change diameter, you can change it here. See, now you are these two planes are moving together. Now you can notice that these planes are not moving, right? That means this plane not tied to the column, right? So only this one is moving, right? Actually, these two planes are redundant here. We don't need, we can delete it also, right? Okay. So this is the things we suppose we can do it, right? Now we have circular column. Then we can go and serve. We can serve, right? This one I call concrete, concrete circular column. Okay, then you can create a type, right? Okay, so you can create a type, right? So here is this one is 1,000 diameter, right? 1,000 dia. Similarly, you can create another one, let's say 500 dia. 1,500. Okay. These two we don't need, so we can delete it. Okay. Apply. So you can create other things, or let's say we create some more. 600 dia, 600, right? Then 700 dia, 700, 800 dia, and 800. Then let's create 900 dia. This one I modify it. Okay, 900. Okay, okay. So let's save this file and go to the Revit interface. So let's create a circular column now. We don't need to save, right? So go to edit type, load the family. So now we are going to load circular column, right? So various type, you can choose any type. Let's say 800 diameter. You can draw. Then you can change to 1,000 dia. You can draw. Let's say 500 dia. You can draw, right? So we can see in 3D. So now we have the circular column. Okay. Okay. These are the simple geometries, right? So we can create easier, right? So now let's go and see how to create a complex geometry like uh, L shape, right? It's very common. L shape column or U shape columns are very common, right? So let's see how to create the L shape column, right? Okay. So I create new, select the Saksara column family, right? So previous one I deleted, uh, I close it, sorry, close it. Okay, now we have this interface, right? So now we had to plan how we are going to do our um, the L shape column, right? L shape column is like this, right? So we had to decide, okay, these are the axes, right? These are the axes, right? So I delete this one first, later we can create this one, right? So these are the axes. So these dimensions are delete first, right? Right. So these are the axes. Okay, this is the axis, right? So let's see how we can create the L-shape column, right? So before that we do some planning, right? So I want to I stop sharing this. Oh, okay. I share the whiteboard first. Okay. So our L-shape columns is like this, right? So now I want the center line, right? So this one you can choose anything. So I am choosing this way. Okay, my center is this one. This is my axis, right? This one always equal, right? This always equal. Thickness, center line is always equal. This one also always equal. I am giving this constraint equal, right? So other parameters are, this is a one length, right? I call L1, right? Then this is another one. I call L2. Okay. Then this is a thickness. Okay. You can give the same parameters. Let's say this one is I call as a thickness. If you want call T1, T2 also you can call it, or if you want to fix it, you can both you can call T1 or T. I call two different things as T2. Okay, so now I am going to create a parameter something like this. Okay, so okay, so this one I make as a axis. Okay, okay, so let's plan. This one we go this way, then we come here and do it, right? This is a center line, right? So this one I copy and move it down, right? And this one also I copy, move it this way, right? So I create this one, coming here. Okay, this one I move inside and move. Um, um, okay, okay. So now we can create a well save column. Okay, then it's the same techniques, right? I have already set up the reference plane. So this plane, if you want, you can name it, right? If you want, you can name it. Okay, I'm not going to name first, right? So we let's create the plan first. So what we can do is we can go to create, click extrusion. Now use a peak axis option to select the lines, right? Okay, so this is a L shape we want to create it. So we use a rim option to rim unnecessary lines. Oh, undo. Um, wait, we need this line. We don't want this one, right? Okay, we can do later. Okay. Okay, now you can see we have the L shape, right? Click OK. Okay, so let's go and see any of the elevation, right? Front elevation. Which one is the front? This one is the front. This one back. This is a front elevation. Oh, this is a front elevation. Okay, okay. Never mind. This one we use a align tool. Align here. Okay. So we look at. Okay. Okay. So now we have a section, right? If you want to see in 3D, you can see in 3D. So this is our column. Okay. So now let's create the parameters. So how to annotate, right? Annotate. So these two we want to make it equal, right? So make it equal, right? See, these are equal. This one we want to call as a T1. This one we want to call as T2, right? So this center line we make it equal, right? Is equal, right? Then from here to here we want to call as a L1, right? Then here to here we want to call as a L2, right? Okay. So let's create the parameter one by one. So this one we click, we call T1, T1. Okay. This one, if you want to make it equal, you can select T1. This one also you can make it T1, right? So I don't want this one, so I create a separate one. Then you can choose a two different thickness, right? Okay. This one I want to call as L1. This one I want to call as L2, L2, right? So if you want to, you can change all are equal 800, right? This one also 800. right? So, okay. So now we create this one, right? If you don't like to see big one, right, you can go to edit and reduce this text size. If look all big, right? So now we reduce it, right? Or is one is very small, you can change it to text size. You can change it to okay. Okay, so we create the parameters, right? So now we can create a different type, right? So we don't want others, so we delete it, is unnecessary, right? It's not meaningful. So we can now we can name our section. So I this one I name it 800 by 800 by 200 by 200. Okay. So we can create another one. Okay, let's say we create 1000 by 800 by 200 by 300. So L1 1000, L2 800, T1 200, and T3 300. Right? So we can create some more. Right? It's up to you. So you can create, let's say, 600 by 800 by 200 by 250. Right? So 600, 800, 200, 250. Right? So it's different types basically. Right? So now you can see it's already updated, right? 200, 250 all updated. So you got to make sure that your section moving together with the plane, reference plane. Otherwise, it not working properly. Okay. So let's serve this one. So we serve this one. So we serve as a concrete L column. Concrete L column. Right. So let's go to the Revit interface. Delete this one. So go to column, import the load family, right? L column, right? Now you see there is a various type. You can choose various column, right? If you want to create a new instance, also you can do it, right? So go to edit. This one you duplicate like last time, right? You can create your own one. 1500 by 900 by 300 by 250 or 200. Okay, 200. Right, so now you can edit it 1500 by 900 by 300 and 200. Right, you can create any numbers of instances. Okay, basically we create a different parameters, right? So that's why we had to create a different parameters, right? So you see we have L1, L2, T1 and T2, right? So now you can change your parameters, whatever you want, you can change it, right? So you can create any numbers of instances using this shape, right? So the important thing is when you create a shape, right, you have to provide enough parameters, right? That means enough variable. Then you can create any shape of the columns. Okay, right? So you can create the L shape. Similarly, you can create a U shape column and other things, right? Similar things, no much different. If you want to create the opening, right? Similarly, you can create it, right? For example, okay, this one again, close it, right? Okay. This L shape, I think not relevant to create the opening. Okay, if you want to create the opening here and the small opening, pipe opening, you can do it, right? So if you want, okay, I explain here. If you want to create the opening here, right? Go to the extrusion, void form extrusion. So here I had to create the opening, right? So I create the opening, right? So I create this opening, let's say um, 75 mm, right? Okay. So now I fix it. Okay, 75 is look big. So I think we can okay. So because this one is only 200. 75. Okay, anyway, just example, right? So now you can see from the elevations, right? So this one is here. So what we had to align this one. So go to top level and align this one, right? Now throughout you have the opening, right? So in 3D you can see clearly. So you have the pipe opening here, right? So you can see this opening, right? Okay. So after serve, right? Now you had to go and import again. This one you had to import again because we last time we imported, but now we change it, right? So we had import again, open overwrite, right? So let's create this one, right? So now you see there is a pipe opening. Okay. So if you want to modify this family also, you can modify it. Click this family, go to edit, you can edit it, right? In for your particular case, if you want to do it, you can do it. So that's the way you can edit it. Okay. It's very easy, right? Okay. Yes. Okay. Understand any doubts on the family creation? You had to understand clearly how I am making this parameter. This is important. This parameter, how I am making these parameters, right? Because we are going to change this one, right? If you fix this value, right? Next time you couldn't take any instances. You can create only one type of the column, right? That's why you had to, when you create a variable, you have to be careful how you are creating the variable, right? So if you refer the reference plane, then you can change easily. Okay. If you don't do that one, then you may have a problem, right? Then again, next thing is if you want to make anything equal, make sure that you have the axis, center axis. See, this is a center axis. So this is a reference from center axis. So you can make it equal. So if you want to provide some constraint, that means you want to make it this thickness and this one is equal, then provide the same naming. Let's say this one T, this one also provide the same name. Say, let's say here, right? If you want, you can change the T, right? Now both are equal, right? So you had to enter only one thickness. Then you say this is called as a constraint, right? You can provide this constraint if you want. Okay. You want me to create any type, any other type or something else to in the column? Otherwise, I go to the beam and do it. So you think about this one. So now let me go and do beam. So after that, if you want to create any special type for your project, then I try to do it. Okay. So now let's create a beam, right? So I continue, create a new family, right? So for in order to create a beam, you have to select the structural framing, right? So here they have structural framing for beam, structural framing for complex trusses, right? We are not going to do any trusses, right? So we are going to do only normal beam. So select the beam, right? This one we don't need, so I close it. Okay, beam, right? So in the plan view, you can see only this one, right? So what we want to see, if you want to see the section, you have to see the section here or here, right? Right? So it is a left or right, right? We have to look at the left or right, right? So let's go and see left. So it's a rectangle section, right? So it's a rectangular section, right? So now, okay, I do this way and then you can understand the differences. So I create this one. Sorry, I create these parameters, right? These parameters I do as a width. This parameter I change to depth. So if you want to update, you can increase this one, right? You see, constraint are not satisfied. Why I cannot increase? Why I cannot increase? Last time the column, right? I could able to increase, but here I cannot. What's the reason? What is the reason I cannot increase here? Let's say 600. The reason is I don't have the reference plane here, right? It's not tied to the reference plane. So that's why I could not increase it, right? So when you create the sections, right, we had to careful, right? We should have a sufficient reference plane. Then only we can create the parameters. Okay. Okay. So now my intention is I create a special type of the beam. Okay, rectangular beam simple. We don't need to worry too much on this one, right? So now my intention is to do the T shape or notch beam. Okay, let's say I'm going to do the notch beam, for example, right? For example, I'm going to do the notch beam. So how I can do, right? So I can create the reference plane here first, right? So let me create some reference plane, right? Then I create a reference top reference plane. Then notch, I create another reference plane for the notch. Okay. Then notch got a width, right? So I create another reference plane. So I can copy this one, maybe 50 mm. This one also I copy here, 50 mm. This one I make it maybe 75 mm, right? So this one, so I want another reference plane, reference plane, right here. Okay. So this one 5.25. Okay. Basically, I want to make it equal from here to here. This line to this line, I want to make it equal. Okay. So I do that one first. Here. Okay. So this one I move it down. So this one also I move it down. 75. Okay. So this is a one thing. Secondly, this one also I make it equal, right? With okay. So this text size I reduced to 2. X size maybe 1.5. Okay. Okay. So now I want to create the notch here, right? So in the rectangular beam, I can edit this beam, right? Edit, right? I got to edit the extrusion, right? So now I can free to edit this one. So I use a fixed axis, right? So now what I'm going to do is I want to remove unnecessary area, right? So use a rim option, right? So this one we don't need. This one we don't need. Oh, sorry. This one we don't need, right? Okay. So now I had this one. Okay. Um, oh, undo. This one we had to do manually anyway. Oh, it doesn't permit. Okay. Delete this one and draw and get it here. Oh, undo something wrong. Right. Then we rim this one. Basically, I'm creating the sections, right? Okay. Click OK. So now we have these sections. So if we want, we can see in 3D how it look, right? So it look okay, right? Okay. So we can see in the plan, right? So we have the two notches. So now we can provide our parameters. So this constraint already provided. So we can create our parameters. So we create the depth. This is a depth, right? So this is a width, right? Then we can create the notch width, right? So this is a notch width, right? Notch width always equal, right? We want the symmetric section, right? This is a notch depth, right? Okay. So let's do the parameters. So this one I call notch width, right? This one also I want to call the same thing, notch width, right? So it's look big, so I edit it, right? Okay. So this one we call notch depth, right? This is the depth of the beam. You can call beam depth or depth, right? Depth. This is a width. Width is what is there. Okay. Then we had to delete unnecessary with ah, spelling error, right? notch steps, right? So this is a width. Okay. So we have the sufficient parameters here, right? So if you want to change, let's say here change right 100 too much, right? Okay, let's change the width first, right? So we change the width to maybe 300. Right? By mine is too short. Oh, something not correct. I do it again. I think when we edit this, we made some mistakes. So that's why we cannot do it properly. So I delete this one first. Okay. So we go to extrude first, right? Select the big line, sorry, plane. So we select is a left, right? So member left. Okay. So we pick the axis, this axis, this axis, this axis, this one, this one, and this one. Okay. So we let's trim it. Let's trim this one. Okay. Then we don't want this one. Okay. Then we don't want this one. Okay. This one. Okay. 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 We don't got this line. Right. Okay. Now I got to create this line. Okay. Okay. We don't want this one. Okay. Lines cannot intersect each other. Okay. Sorry. We haven't trimmed it here. Okay. Okay. Let's do 3D. Okay, we had 3D. Okay, so this one easy. So we had to align. Basically, we had to align it. So this one, move it to here, right? Then align, right? Okay. So we can see in 3D. Okay. Okay. So now let's insert the parameters. So this one we want to call as a width, right? Width. So we want to call as depth, right? So let's change and see. Okay, now it's working. So we had to be careful when we create the parameters, right? Right. So it's working. So this one, okay. This width I we want to call as a notch, right? So this one we call notch depth, right? See when I change, it's automatically change, right? Then we are right. We are doing the right thing. Okay. Okay. So let's serve this one. So I want to call concrete notch beam. Okay. So you can create the type. So this one, how I want to call, uh, 300 width into 500 depth into notch width 50 mm and notch depth 75 mm, right? 75 mm. So click OK. Right. Okay. So now let's try our notch beam. So for the success, click beam. Okay, edit type, import the family. So we are going to use notch beam. Okay, so we have the parameter already. So we can create here to here, let's say our beam, right? Why? Okay. Okay, why? Hmm, okay, let's see in 3D. Right. Okay. Okay. So let's try whether I can change the parameter. So we create a duplicate. We duplicate this one. So I change the width 800, 600, depth maybe 1000, right? So notch width is let's say 150, right? And depth is let's say 150, right? So let's try. So let's try this one. Okay. So now you can see, right? So this is a deep beam. We have a different notch, right? Okay. So this is a way you can create a notch beam. Okay. So if you want to create any openings or if you want to add in something, you can use either extrusion or void, right? If opening, you can use a void, or if you want to add something, then you can use extrusions. right? So let's say you are doing the bridge or some other success, right? So you need a U-shaped beams, right, or trapezoidal beam. You can develop, right? Like this NH beam, you can develop the trapezoidal beam, right? So in the bridge deck, right, there's an opening in the, at the center, so you can create, or you can create the I beams, right? So any type of the beams you can create using these families. Right. So basically what you would understand is how you are parameterize a beam, right? So you have to make sure that you have a sufficient reference plane to you can change the parameters, right? So if you don't have a reference line, right, then you may have a problem. So for example, right, then if you don't have the parameters here, if you change this one, then you're gonna change it. Let's say here, right, I change to 75. Right, both sides changing because I give the constraint both sides are equal, so both sides is changing together. So in the reference line also changing together. If this reference line moved differently, right, then you gonna change it. You can change it, but it won't work correctly. So both sides give a different value, so it's not correct. It's not what you want. Okay. Um. You want me to create any other section to you want to see? Or I think this is a basic. You can create any kind of the section using this principle. Okay, if not, then I can. Okay, I already create the columns and beams, right? Next, I can go to the slab, right? So slab also similar, right? So only thing is you have to select the slab, right? That is metric generic model flow, right? So select this one, right? So I delete this one. I don't want this one. So now you look in it. The plan I have this one, right? So I have the plan like this. So you can see flow, edit type, or edit type, thickness. You see they have thickness. You can change the if you want. You can change the thickness here, right? So it is a flow, right? Then the view, right? You can say this is a 3D. Then you look at the left elevation, right? So this is the left elevation, right? So this thickness is 300, right? If you have doubt, you can measure this one, 300 depth. Okay. So for example, if you want to create some color here, right? Or you want to modify this one, then you can do it. But let's say you are doing the precast lab, then you have to modify this by uh, the edge, then you can do it. Okay. So it is a front and left elevation side. Okay. So if you want to modify, you can modify this one. Okay. So for example, I create the openings here, then you can understand more. So let me roll the reference plane first. So create reference plane, right? So reference plane, I make it 150, right? 150, right? So I create a reference plane. So annotate. Okay, this one is a 150, right? Always equal anyway, right? I can create another reference plane for void, right? So this one is I create here. So let me measure what's the total length of this one. This one is a 4 meter, right? Total is 4 meter. Okay. So 4 meter, 2 meters, so it's 200 away. Okay, 200 away. Okay. So now this one I can copy, I can mirror image this one, right? So we, well, okay, I am going to form 150 diameter opening, for example. Then I had to provide in the spacing. Okay. So let's start to create this one. So go to form, void form, extrusion, right? Choose a circle, right? So this is a circle, 150 diameter, right? So 75 radius, right? Then we copy this one. So I am going to provide in 300 spacing, for example. So I copy this one to 300, 300. You can use array also, array method. I think something wrong, something wrong, sorry. Okay, okay, right? So we make opening, close. Okay, so now it's already extruded, so it's formed the void. So we can go and see here, right? So here is we had align now, right? Similarly last time we had align it, right? This line, right? So we had align. Similarly here, right? So now we have created a full opening. So we can see in 3D. So see now you can see the opening, right? So you can choose the opening. If you can, if you head out, you can see the opening. Okay. Okay. This one I serve as colloquial slab, HCS. Concrete floor, I call concrete floor colloquial slab. Right. Okay. So now go and test it out. So go to floor, success, right? So we go edit type. Oh, step family. Oh, mm, concrete floor. Okay, here. Mm. Mm. I We can suppose to change it. I don't understand why it don't allow. Mm. Okay, I think something wrong. I don't know why it's not. Basically, it can be imported. It's already imported here, but they're allowed to row as a slab. So later this one I solve it. Let me see how to see this problem. Maybe next week I explain to you how to do it. Right? Okay. So this way you can create a colloquial slab. So if you want a different type of the slab, right? So maybe some profile slab, then you can modify from slab profile, right? So basically, so you had to modify this shape, right? So you know how to do this one, right? So modification, how to it's basically is add or remove, right? So you can add some elements or some component, then you can make the void using the void format, right? Right. So basically, everything you can create using these options, right? So if you want to revolve it, you can use revolve it. If you want to use, okay, structurally may not important, but if you want to do some architects or many items, you can use these options like a pipe, so any other element, you can use these options, right? All these ones are available. You can use it. Okay. You have any questions on this one? Okay, if not, okay, the family is not only used for the for geometry creation. It can be used for annotations. You remember last time when we do the annotation, I explained how to edit the family, right? Actually, you can create your own family using for your own purpose. You can create your own families, right? Similar way, what you want to do is, right? They already have the standard families, right? So using this one, you can modify from there, right? So basically what you want to is you had to choose a correct family type, then you can modify or you can totally create new things, right? So for example, uh, uh, okay, title blocks, right? So they have various, right? Let's say A1, right? Let me open title block, right? A1 title block. So now they have given the this one, right? So what you can do is, right, just and remember we use AutoCAD title block, right? So now what you can do is you can create your own title block here, right? So the line basically is a line, right? So you can create a line. Okay, this one. Okay, you see this is total how much you first you measure total how much. So go to line options total how much this one. So this one 841, right? So you decide how much you want to create here, create, right? So this line, so it's a 100 mm, right? right? So it's 100 you create it. Okay, then you had to subdivide this one, right? Based on your own estimations, you had subdivide it, right? So like this, and you can do like this, right? Okay, so your company, you have your own standard, right? You already you're using the AutoCAD, right? Now you can prepare this one is Revit. Then now what you want to use, you have to insert your labels, text, basically say text, right? So you can create the text here, right? You can type it, right? So whatever you want, you can type it, right? Okay, so after finish this one, right? Then you can save as a family, right? So after that, when you create a seed, you can import this one. You remember last time I say you can load it. If you have the template, you can load it, right? Then you can do it this one, right? So this one, remember the text editing, everything I already explained how to do, right? So that you can change the types, text, the width, height, the color, everything you can change it, right? So if you want to insert something, let's say if you want to insert some photo or some logos, right? Then you can insert it, right? You can insert as an image. Uh, Actually, you can insert as an image also, insert image, right? So you can import the image, or if you had CAD file, you can import as a CAD file, right? So everything it can be done. So basically, they have given the footprint, right? So template. So you can modify from that template and make your own families. And then you can serve it. So next time, all project you can use it. It's like a library. So you serve in your library later on. You can use in your own projects, right? So similarly, there is other things, annotations. So annotations, there's a many annotations, right? So for example, call out, right? So open. So this one I delete now. I don't need, right? Right. So call out, right? So if you want to create any specific tile, let's say square or something, then you can create your own call out, right? Right. So basically, is they have given all footprints, then you have to modify from there. Okay. So now I am showing all these options. So whenever you need, you can use this one. So under annotation, you can find all this one, right? So the grid, right? So you can see the grid, right? So in the head, right? So this size, right? If you don't like size, right? If you want to increase the size, line width, border width, font size, text size, everything, you can change it here, right? Then serve as a family. Next time you can import in your project, right? Uh, Conceptual maps, no, normally we don't use this, architect use, right? I think that's all is a basic of the family. Actually, family is very very powerful in Revit, right? So if you want to go some advanced level, you have to learn family because the standard library in Revit is limited. So you had to create some other elements. So you had to use a family, right? So whenever you use a family, right, you write to serve in your own library. So next time you can use that one. Well, you can see last time, right? We discussed as a rebar safe templates, right? So you can see, right? See, right? Now, this is a template they have it, so you can modify it. Actually, you can modify it, right? So if you want to create any new shape, you can create your own shape. Then you can serve as your own templates, right? Okay. I think that's all today.